Years ago, when I was in high school, my dad introduced me to a TV show he grew up with. It was called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. And together, with my mom, we watched every episode of its 4-season run. While not every episode was great, or even good for that matter, I could tell by the end there was potential and a lot of it for a movie based on the material. So you can imagine when this film was announced, it piqued our interest. And I know for me especially, I was very curious about just how much like the TV show the movie would be. Would there, for instance, be a scene where a chocolate ice cream bar became a grenade? Or a scene where a shoe became a chainsaw? Ultimately, no such luck, but a guy can dream, right? There is always the sequel, remake, or reboot. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. In my opinion, it's okay. The story follows CIA agent Napoleon Solo and KGB operative Ilya Kuryakin as they join forces following a mission in Germany that saw them at odds. Their mission involves the father of a woman Solo helped defect to West Germany. The father is a scientist who's been enlisted to construct a nuclear bomb for a criminal organization. Without knowing who to trust, all three band together to put an end to the madness. A concern my dad and I had when this film was announced was whether or not it would take place in the 60s like the TV show. Oftentimes, filmmakers take stories written decades ago and refit them for modern times. Thankfully, Guy Ritchie based this film in the 60s, making my dad and I both happy. What I enjoyed most was the look of this film. With help from DOP John Matheson, production designer Oliver Scholl, and costume designer Joanna Johnson, Ritchie's vision really pops and stands out, making it unique from other espionage films, especially from this year. I also enjoyed the banter dialogue. It employs appropriate wit and gives each character a distinct and interesting voice. From a performance standpoint, it's interesting to note that Armie Hammer is the only actor who watched the TV show to prep for his role. And with that in mind, it's curious how his Ilya is more aggressive compared to the more laid-back David McCallum. And compared to the gentlemanly Robert Vaughn, Henry Cavill is more cocky and suggestive. It's definitely a departure from what the original cast was like, but the attitude both actors bring adds an attractive flair that makes for a much more engaging dynamic. My notes for improvement fall under the story idea, the pacing, and the film's sporadic shift in style. We get traditional coverage, long takes, fast cutting, multi-screen editing, and finally, bird's-eye view shots that focus in on one action, then zoom out and focus in on another. All of those styles can be effective and help tell the story, but in this film's case, it was just too many styles packed in one. And especially since it's Guy Ritchie behind this film, he's one of the more blatantly stylistic directors. I feel like he put his style preference before the story. And that actually leads me to the pacing. 2 hours is a good length for a spy film, but due to the sporadic nature of how the film plays out, the story doesn't play out as concise as it could. As for the story idea, this film is an origin story meant to establish how U.N.C.L.E. began. And it's a good idea because that's never talked about in the TV show. But the way this story is written, less focus is put on watching Solo and Kuryakin go from being enemies to being partners. And because of that, when the announcement comes that U.N.C.L.E. is U.N.C.L.E., it didn't feel as organic as I was hoping. But if my wish comes true and a sequel is greenlit, I will not let any of that stop me from watching it. Because with enough care and passion, the sequel could be much better. I give The Man from U.N.C.L.E. 2.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Have an awesome day.